Hey there, this is Chad Boninger from High University Libraries. I've got several students who are in Australia looking at the Australian consumer market as well as the sports market, working with some local basketball and sports associations. I'm actually on vacation while they are there, and so this is my attempt to show them how to use Passport for their projects. So please forgive this may be a little bit long and rambly, just because I don't have it actually scripted, but it'll give you some guidance on how you might use Passport to do some great research for your project. So here we go. All right, so while we're here, this is the homepage for my business guides. I'm going to go to the international business section down here in the bottom right-hand corner. This is a useful guide for if you're doing any sort of industry or international business kind of analysis. Some good stuff here. For the purposes of this video, I want to focus specifically on the industry and market research section, and we're going to look at these passport database. So I'm going to go there, and we'll let this load up. And all right, so when you get here, you'll notice that there are some terms and conditions. This basically means you're using it for your student work, right? So you're using it for your own student work, for your courses, and for your programs. So we're going to accept the conditions here, and this will take us to the Passport search screen. Once we're on this Passport homepage, I'm going to start broadly and just do a general search for what Passport calls business dynamics. And I'm going to say business dynamics and I'm going to type AUS, and this will bring up Business Dynamics Australia. All right, so let's go there to look at this report. This is a good report to kind of use as kind of like a springboard for these kind of things. So this kind of gives us like what the regulatory environment is, skills and labor, trade and infrastructure, all this kind of stuff for Australia. Good report to start with. If you go under this related industry reports, you can, this more related items. Here we have pest analysis for Australia, commodities Australia, things like that. So great stuff to look at within there. Okay. There's also some good reports. I'm going to go back to the Passport homepage here. If you search for consumer, and we'll try lifestyles in Australia. All right, so here we have consumer lifestyles in Australia. There's also consumer profile Australia, etc. So this is a great way to kind of get these consumer type reports, and these kind of cover things anywhere from the basketball kind of avenue of this project, leisure activities, spending on travel, things like that would be worth looking at. So here's this report, and you can kind of see all this stuff that kind of covers, home life and leisure time, things like that would be relevant to the basketball entertainment kind of perspective, as well as working life, health and wellness, all this kind of stuff. There's all kinds of good stuff you can look at within here, and there's also under more related items down here. Here we have your business dynamics, your pest analysis, other things like that, right? So good stuff you can find there. So again, search for consumer lifestyles. You'll get some different reports in here for that sort of thing. Now you can also browse these sections. If you click on consumers here, it's going to take you to, household, lifestyles, that kind of stuff. You can click on one of these menus and then choose Australia as your country and get more reports and data that way. I'm going to go under industries here, and we're going to look at some sports-specific kind of information. So if we go under services, here there's a whole sports section here within Passport. So there's all kinds of things you can do in here within the sports section. Right here, we're going to actually change this to location, and let's do Australia. And if we do that, we can see that there might be different kind of sports here. Let's just do go here to start with. And this will actually load like tons of sports data and that sort of thing within this chart view and statistics view here. This is obviously way too much information here, but you can see we have the country, the sport, the name of the sports property or team, the year. We've got total attendance, sellout ratios, average ticket prices, tickets spend, average attendance, how many home games they had, things like that. So you can kind of go in and whittle this down. If you just want to do basketball, for example, you can choose, let's just do basketball, and then let's do basketball again, and then we can click go here. It's going to actually filter that down just to the basketball, professional basketball teams that are in the area. In addition to the match information, you also have information about social media and other kinds of things, commercial partners, like who some of the sponsors are, things like that. Okay. So here we see for the various basketball properties in Australia, what the team is, what the social media platform is, how many average views, the followers, likes, comments, etc. So real good way to look at engagement with the fan community via social media for these sports properties. The commercial partners section here also gives you some good information. Here we see, who the commercial partner is for each team, things like that. In some cases, they might give you a value associated with it. Or at least they give you what they sponsor. For example, they might sponsor the kit or uniform, things like that. So pretty good information to look at from understanding who some of the sponsors are in the industry or in the sports league. There's also these sections over here on the right-hand side. There is a sports league indices and then a sponsorship valuation model. For example, looking at sponsorship deals in team sports. So these might be of interest to you as well. Basically, it kind of creates similar charts like this to look at. So this is the league and club indices. I'm going to change this to actually look at the country, uncheck all, and let's just do Australia and apply here. And basically, this will give us all of those sports properties in Australia. And what this gives you is basically exposure and engagement, how competitive the team is, things like, what's the economic metrics of the fans in the area, things like that. So all kinds of interesting stuff that you can look at there. And that's from a league perspective, and you also have it from a club perspective as well. The last thing I'll show you here is if we go to consumers from the home page and then go to the lifestyles page here, what we're going to do is select this thing called the Lifestyles Consumer Survey Dashboard. When you first arrive at this page, it actually, the dashboard kind of defaults this dietary and preferences page, or it may default to something else. Regardless, what you can do is go up here and click Change Topic. And for the purpose of my basketball friends in Australia, there's a nice leisure and recreation section here. And there is a leisure activities section here and frequency of leisure activities. So we'll click that and then click Apply. Sometimes these can take a little bit to load, so do be patient. If we scroll down here, we see there is a section for go to a sporting event. And right now we're looking at this by country and comparing Australia to these other countries. You'll see it's done by country. We can do by age group, etc. This says at least weekly. What we might want to do is change this to 1 to 3 times a month or once a month. Regardless of what you do here, you can see it gives you a nice breakdown by percentages by year to see. And we do see that in Australia, people who went to a sporting event at least weekly was 7.8% so far in 2025. So compared to 6.7% in 2024. So interesting way to look at some data there. So, and you can also go up here and download the results as well. So lots of really cool information that you can find here in Passport. If you are looking at maybe a sponsorship thing, like you want to know men's grooming products or salad dressings or restaurants or whatever, there's the whole industry tab here. And so if we're looking at drinks and you want to look at a beer sponsorship alignment with a sport, you can find industry reports for say beer or wine or whatever in Australia by using these tabs here, right? So you can do that and then limit by the country. So lots of good ways to use this resource for the projects in Australia. So Wish you the best and good luck with all your research.